Hey, ladies, we want you to mark your calendar for October 5th through the 12th, 2025, because we're taking you on an epic pilgrimage to Crete.
That's right. We're doing a beautiful retreat called Awakening the Goddess, where we are going to nurture ourselves from the inside out. You're going to be learning all kinds of sacred sexual practices from both the Taoist and the Tantric perspective. We'll be doing yoga every day. We'll be going and visiting sacred sites and really harnessing the energy of the primordial goddess, meaning the original divine feminine energy that is so alive on this island. I was just there last year and it was a game changer for me. And I was like, Leah, we got to put together the retreat that I want to go to. So this is it.
Yeah, there's something very special about women coming together and healing and awakening each other's Shakti to really resolve some of the blocks, some of the hurts, some of the traumas from the past, to shed that dead weight so that you can become more alive. You can become more magnetic, cultivating trust, cultivating vulnerability, cultivating presence, coming into a new state of consciousness in the arms of a group of really amazing women, sisters, and friends you're going to have for a lifetime, including Willow and I. So join us on the plane. Let's get this party started. You can sign up at sexreimagined.com and let's go to Greece, baby.
What happens when infidelity transforms from relationship destruction into a spiritual awakening? Today's guests turned their darkest moment into a radical path of healing that's challenging everything we thought we knew about betrayal and connection. I'm Dr. Willow Brown. I'm here with my incredible co-host, Leah Piper of the Sex Reimagined podcast. We are so grateful for all of your likes, shares, and subscribes. Please keep them coming. And today we are going to be talking with Britton and Carolee, relationship alchemists and creators of the magical story of us. And I'm so excited for this conversation. It's going to be powerful.
That's right. So it is time to tune in, turn on, and fall in love with Britton and Carolee.
Welcome to the Sex Reimagined podcast, where sex is shame-free and pleasure-forward. Let's get into the show.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Thank you so much,
excited.
Leah and Dr. Willow. It's good to be here with you guys.
So you guys have been on quite a journey, both raised Mormon, and following that path in your earlier years, which did not lead you in the direction you wanted to be going, to the direction of joy and happiness. And then you had, like, it sounds like a big eruption and made your way through a lot of healing, and I'm sure through a lot of portals of challenge and growth that led you to being in a very beautiful, blissful relationship. All of this while raising 4 kids. So, I mean, tell us all.
Yeah, where does your story begin?
Well, it begins with when we first got married. Like after the first year, there was.
How old were you when you got married, and where did you meet?
Yeah, it began at church, actually. Mm-hmm. There we go. We met at church. We met at a ward or a congregation that was for singles within the Mormon faith. And
that was 2009.
2008. I was 25 and he was 26. Those ages are actually a little bit old for traditional like Mormon culture. Yeah. Normal Mormons get married at like 21, 22.
Early 20s.
So we were a little bit older, but yeah, we met at a congregation that was specifically aimed to help single Mormons meet each other so that there could be marriages produced from that, because there's a lot of cultural push to get married. We got pregnant and then miscarried, but within like kind of the first year of our relationship, of our marriage. We married a year after meeting, and infidelity and some threads of that kind of started early on, like in alignment with like the first pregnancy that actually took. Our oldest is now 13. So we stayed in the church up until 2019 is when we stopped attending for good. That was immediately following a plant medicine journey. And there's so many. I mean, you can just tell me what parts you want to dive more into, but
so many parts.
Dive into all of them.
story.
Don't
I
hold
mean,
back. Yeah, give us the good.
I'm kind of curious.
One
just
of the
right
things
off-
that, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. One of the things I'm curious about is infidelity more common in Mormon relationships than most of us would assume?
Oh, that's a good question.
I would think so. I don't know. I don't have a definite answer on that, but I would think so, because most people are going to assume that Mormons are very committed to their faith, and so they don't make mistakes like that, quote unquote mistakes. So, but yeah, we found in our process of healing, we found a lot of couples dealing with this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I will say that, early on, we didn't actually know how to approach healing this. We actually went through the mechanisms that the church provided. When you have a significant sin, they want you to go through certain kind of actions, and we did all of that. But that is around 2017, we had a moment where it was kind of this make or break. We're going to need to get into therapy or we're done kind of direction. And it was through therapy that we actually began to see where the church didn't hold any emotional intelligence, didn't hold any true healing for what we had been through. And the clinic that I found we were living in Utah at the time. It's a great clinic. It's called Addo. And their emphasis, their specialty is betrayal trauma. It's so there's a lot of women. I did a trauma-informed yoga class there, a therapy group, and it was all women who had been betrayed in various levels, between whether it was pornography use, sexting, or full-fledged affairs. It was pretty prolific because there's so much control and shame and suppression that even the culture that we came from, we didn't actually know how to set healthy boundaries. We didn't actually know how to make relational agreements. There's a lot of mechanisms of control and how you're supposed to be, and role division and all of that, to where betrayal can be sneaky and it can come in so many ways. So I would say that because of the lack of that emotional intelligence foundation that came from the culture, that to the extent of how many affairs are there? I can't really go that far, but in the sense of the threads of betrayal in relationship and being woven, it's high. I would.
Well, they have the statistic that the church has on males that are addicted to pornography or struggling with pornography is around 70% of the active male population. So it's a huge percentage that are dealing with it, and the church has no idea how to handle it or how to approach it. It's just more of the guilt shame story, stop looking at it, your blessings go away if you continue this.
You're wrong.
So,
you're bad if you do this, which furthers and perpetuates the desire and the need to do it, because it's a distraction from the shame that you're feeling, right? It's oh my God, I'm feeling good. I'm having an orgasm. I'm finally feeling good, and it's
Right.
I want to go toward
Exactly.
that. I don't want to go toward being more ashamed. I feel gosh, all religions can put so much pressure on us that really can drive us toward these things like porn and sugar and, things that make us feel good in the moment.
Yeah, I'm curious, Britton, what's the messaging from your upbringing, and you too, Carolee, regarding Mormonism and sex? What's the messaging about what's okay, what's not okay? Both Will and I grew up Catholic. I also spent 10 years in Pentecostal church. So there's some clearer messaging about what's okay and what's not okay. And also the rules are slightly different, it always felt like to me, between boys and girls. I'm curious what it was like for you guys growing up.
Yeah, so for young men, it was no masturbation, and then no dating till 16, and no being essentially no being horizontal with a girl. That was kind of a sort of a dogmatic teaching. And And then it was just celibacy before marriage. And then, and once you're married, it was like, so we always say that no, no, no. And then once you're married, go, go, go. But there's no doctrinal teaching around it. They say stuff like, sex and marriage is like how you connect with God. It's like how we become like, and this is a very universal concept right across the planet, but there is nothing besides like that sort of trite statement that that offers anybody anything to understand about sex. So it's just this no shame stuff. And then when you're married, it's like anything's okay as long as you're both comfortable with it. So that's kind of what we walked into. I knew I wanted to have oral sex. I knew I wanted to do a lot of different things with her that I'd actually already done outside of marriage. I'd broken the rules many times, actually.
You were the rebel, the Mormon
I was the rebel. Yeah. So I found myself in the Mormon bishop's office quite a bit because I was repenting of my sins of connecting with women and girls. I was even in teenage years having that issue. So and then for girls, it's like even a little bit different.
Yeah. Again, that no kind of concept of you can't do anything. And then you're married. We have friends that we know who literally didn't even kiss their spouse until the day of their wedding.
Wow.
And that was
Holy
like
shit.
tooted as
extreme.
Yeah, that was
Very
a bit extreme, but it was like
Yeah.
a real accomplishment, like I'm really
Right.
honoring this.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Accomplishment, right.
Yeah,
It's a different perspective on life. That is.
Let's take a quick break.
Ladies, do you want to explore your sexuality and experience true sexual healing?
The Vaginal Orgasms Masterclass teaches you and your partners how to unlock your full sexual potential and awaken the G-spot, the sacred spot, and the cervix for an unforgettable sexual experience. Would learning how to finally surrender and release grief, fear, and uncertainty benefit your outlook on life, love, and relationships? We certainly think so. Common misconceptions of the G-spot, including its anatomy and function as an erogenous zone, will be covered in this course.
Plus, we're going to teach you 7 different massage strokes for the G-spot that dissolve blocked energy and increase your pleasure tenfold.
We're going to teach you how to locate the sacred spot and the best methods to stimulate it for maximum pleasure.
And you're going to learn about cervical orgasm techniques, which are the most powerful and also often elusive style of climaxing. This class is primarily geared toward women, but men have taken it as well and learned so much about how to pleasure their partners.
So get ready for multiple O's, my friends. And you can get all of that at sexreimagine.com/female-masterclass. And for being a listener of the show, we've got a beautiful coupon code for you. It is 20% off this course. Just type in podcast20, that's all caps, podcast20, and get yourself a great deal on this on-demand course.
Yeah.
It's so different. Some other things though is there was a lot of purity culture that came through. So and the importance, the person that was supposed to hold it often was like the woman, right? In her dress. So there was deep programming from my childhood of I couldn't show my shoulders. I couldn't dress in a certain way.
Right.
Because Mormons. Modesty is so important. And if I dress in a certain way and a man has a problem, then it's my responsibility. Yeah. So there's some of that. Actually, there's a lot of that.
And I'll say I went into our marriage.
Certain biology. It's so
hard. I went into our marriage actually still believing to a great extent that women do need to dress properly so that they aren't activating men. It was deep programming. So they kind of tell women in classroom settings or whatever, in meetings where they're like, you need to dress better so that the guys will honor you and that sort of thing.
It's like your male sexual desire is your fault and your responsibility. And so in order to keep the men in line, it's your responsibility to help control their desires, basically, by not being sexy.
So rooted in the oppression of the feminine that's been going on for
really interesting.
many eons. Okay, so tell us what happened. Like when was the turning point? What was the inflection point of like, okay, we got to do something different, or this isn't going to work anymore?
Yeah,
like,
it sounds
when
like
did you
there was
leave
like
the
the affair,
church?
right? And then you
Yeah.
guys did therapy, and it sounds like that was a big pattern interrupt. You found good therapists.
Yeah.
Okay.
She found a pretty good therapist, and then we went to we also did couples at the same time, and that lasted for a little while. It wasn't super effective. I didn't feel like it was for me. And then I went and had my own therapist, and I had some breakthroughs as well in that. But what we could say is that, you know, like she said, there was like the full-fledged affair in 2017, and then we went through this church process in 2017 to 2018. And after we came through the exit of that, it was like clear that it was just the church wasn't really capable of doing much in the way of helping. And it was just offering us a spiritual bypass pathway of like, change your environment, don't talk to these people. You know, like it was basically all of the chess moves that would protect you, but it's actually, there's no internal change, because I still feel tempted. I still felt the attraction to other women. I still wanted more from her, but she wasn't embodied in a way to offer that. So there was still this thing, but we were healing in a way that we were reconnecting and allowing ourselves to like feel more into each other again, that we had sort of blocked off, and all of that heartache and heart wall had built up. But it was in the end of towards the end of 2019 when she mentioned we did a mushroom ceremony, and the reason why we got into that is we had sort of dabbled in alcohol and wine, which is, you know, not a Mormon thing. You kind of abstain from that.
Not kind of, you do.
You do.
Yeah.
You straight up don't drink.
Yeah.
You stayed. Yeah. My mother did cry when I told her that we were drinking alcohol. Yeah. That was a hard moment for her.
Followed by many more hard moments, it sounds like.
Just those kids.
Exactly. And she's still learning all about our journey right now. So
she's going to learn a lot more as your podcast starts to launch. My mom doesn't listen to my podcast. I tell her not to, so you might want to do that.
That's always smart. I don't think anyone in my family listens either. I think my youngest sisters listen to a few episodes. Okay, so please continue, Brett.
Go on.
Yeah. So what happened was we sort of dabbled in that, and that kind of was like a therapy in a bottle, and it was the gateway into exploring with other things. And my brother, who was already sort of out of the church for a long time, kind of was key in kind of introducing to us more of like cannabis. And then one day he came by, and we were all like hanging out and smoking some weed. And, you know, we were sort of less active in the Mormon church. We weren't fully active. We were sort of like not interested as much, but we were definitely still in it. But then he dropped this bag of mushrooms on my counter and was like, bro, you got to check this out. And I was like, oh my God, my brother's a junkie. Yeah, I got to get away from this. It was like so scary. And so I was like, yeah,
that could be an episode.
Yeah.
For you guys.
And so I was like, I don't know about that, man. And he was like, well, you should just read this book. And he introduced the book, How to Change Your Mind with Michael Pollan. And so I was like, okay. And somebody else actually recommended it like a week later, you know, and so like the cosmic breadcrumbs dropped. And so I listened to it. I do audiobooks. And then during that, it like totally opened my mind to like trying it and to like seeing this from a spiritual perspective. And so I was like, Carolee, you got to like listen to this book. And if you want, let's do a ceremony together. Beautiful. And so we did. And that happened in the end of 2019. And so we did the ceremony together, and it was really beautiful and had a huge process around it. And the next day we went to church. And it was like a program for kids to come up and like participate. And basically we were still in the afterglow of the mushrooms, and we had high perception, and we saw the indoctrination so clearly of what was going on with these young children. And it was like, we just sort of like looked at each other. We were like, we're done. We're out of here. This is it.
I just got chills.
I got chills all over my whole body. Yes.
Wow.
Wow.
So that was the last time we went.
Thank you, Mushroom. Yeah, for the awakening. That's so powerful. That's so deep. Now, did you continue to do those journeys with each other after that initial one, or did you take like a long integration period?
So I was really excited about what happened with the mushrooms, and I was feeling a call and to another session. So like a month later, we had an opportunity where we were up in Park City, Utah.
Beautiful
And so we did another one up in Park City at a resort. And during that session, I had, it was an incredibly powerful session for us. It was like every spiritual piece of, because we had just left the church. And so we were like, in a way, free falling in our spirituality. We were like, well, what is this all about? And we were asking for, we're asking for more insight for sure. But we had a very sacred experience, and I had a Kundalini awakening. And in that awakening, I experienced my total worth and my true identity and my nature, my eternal nature. And that was like so mind expanding for me that I realized the number one thing I walked away from that was I realized my heart had been closed my whole life, basically. Yeah. And so I was able to walk away with that and say, well, one, I know magic's real now. And two, my heart is the key to listening to my spirit, my emotions, right? And so I decided from that time forward that I was going to let my heart lead the way. And I had an actual like commitment. And I was like, hey, left brain, you've got me to this place that I'm at, which hasn't really been good. You've kept me in fear. You've tried to lead me, but it's never really been the thing that's brought me joy. And so I'm going to let my heart lead. I'm going to let the right brain lead now. And that was a big change in my spiritual awakening journey.
Wow.
Now, was this second one that you guys did in Park City, was it just the two of you, or were you being guided by a facilitator?
So the first one was guided, and then this one in Park City was just us. We felt pro at that time,
Yeah,
like,
we got this. We're going.
We kind of guide each other,
Nice.
That second one, our youngest daughter, who is now 4, she was not born yet, and she actually came, and her energy was very present during that ceremony as well. So we went back home, and within 2 months actually had conceived her. And so there was another period.
Even though the pregnancies had been the hardest part of our marriage.
The pregnancies always correlated with, like, I guess you could say, a relapse into infidelity.
Okay.
The infidelities always came about. So we had been saying, in Mormonism, having a lot of kids is very common, and people ask all the time, when are you having more? 3 is not very many. 4 is a pretty okay number. 5, 6, better, kind of, at least in our upbringings, we both come from families of 6 children. And so, Britton we had been asked by people, when are you having another? And he had been saying for years prior to all of this, God himself will have to tell me that we're having another. And what everybody else didn't understand is I had like zero desire. My desire, it wasn't just zero, it was like in the negative. And I've identified now that a lot of that actually it was generational.
Sexual desire. Right?
Sexual desire. Like I was, it was a generational pattern in women in my family line that we came in with this sort of, I'm not allowed to have desire program. And my purpose is, as a wife and a mother, my purpose in life isn't to be a lover. So I was really good at like checking the boxes of mothering, and of mothering him, mothering my children, and taking care of my home. But I personally really lacked the lover and the self-love and the embodiment piece for myself. And pregnancy, I'm short. I have a very short torso. My body expands in ways that I would get very uncomfortable in my skin, and that would further intensify my lack of initiation, my lack of desire, the lack of connection, which would it was sort of this like cauldron of problems. You know, we both wanted these children and we wanted this family and we wanted this life, but there was this big disconnect in our love relationship.
Right. Mismatched libidos, mismatched desire.
I'm so
Then
cute.
all
Yeah.
of that stuff from just generation to generation, the epigenetics of the burden that oftentimes women carry in very religious institutions around, sex not being okay. Pleasure isn't for you, it's for the partner. Your job is to carry the family. And what people don't understand, people think mothering, right? It's like, oh, it's the greatest feminine, right? It's like we really apply the feminine to mothering, but actually the work of the mother is very masculine. It's not actually totally connected to the essence of the feminine. It's connected more to the essence of masculine.
That's a good point.
And so I think that is also a part of like where polarity gets switched off. And also there's all the energy, all the creativity that comes, especially in those early, younger years with babies. You're pouring the sexual energy into the child so that the child can thrive and survive and do well in the world. It needs you at that time in a way at no other age. And so you're pouring all this life force into the children. And then what's left? You're lucky if you get a scrap for yourself. And then, of course, it seems like the spouse is feeling neglected and on the outside in some ways. Is that how it felt for you also, Britton?
It was actually that way from the beginning. And I had several conversations with her, one before our marriage. Actually, it was like, hey, I'm really interested in sex. I'm really wanting to do these things. And then just many times in marriage where, like I'm struggling with these emotional connections that I'm making on my phone and like trying to activate her energy. Like, hey, why don't you initiate? What's wrong? Do you not desire me? Am I just not attractive? Like, I was curious as to what was really going on with her because I desired so much to have that deeper sexual connection. It was something that, just is innate in me, like
you're hungry for it.
My blueprint, right?
Yeah. I'm so curious, Carolee, like what was your journey to finding your way to desire and to awakening the divine feminine within you? Because as you sit before us today, you seem like a very embodied woman who knows, how to not only her desire, but how to express it. And so just curious,
has your libido changed?
What your journey's been.
Oh my gosh.
Night and day.
It is, I call that life my past life.
Mm-hmm.
It's my past life in this life. It's a completely different me. So yeah, like there's so many things that I can say about to answer this question. Earlier on in our marriage, I had this intuition that was kind of bubbling up inside of me that, birth control did some really bad things to my body, and the lack of desire that was rooted in epigenetics and generation, all the things, was also compounded by childhood sexual trauma. So, and I didn't actually have proper healing for that trauma. In my family of origin, there was some abuse that a family member, cousin had experienced, and then he perpetuated that. And so there was this big family secret, this shame. And I, unfortunately, I mean, it's all just part of the story, was part of that. And so I remember early on, while we were still Mormon, in fact, I have a vivid memory. I can like see it in my mind still, very real, of being in bed with him and lovemaking and like trying to tell him while we're making love, I think my childhood abuse is blocking me from my connection with you.
Hallelujah.
And but at that point, he was like, no, it probably isn't. Like I didn't even
exactly that.
Well, we didn't even know what the word codependence meant.
Yeah.
And I was completely codependent, right? Like, so there was zero real embodied emotional intelligence. And so,
I think part of me felt like if I acknowledged that then maybe she was broken, and I didn't want to be married to a sexually broken wife.
Right.
So there was blockage there that I was not open.
Well, and
Yeah.
no one knows what to do in those situations.
Yeah.
Having also gone through that, Carolee, there's so much shame. And then you start to realize, oh my gosh, this is probably filtering into why I feel so blocked. And then in the moment, when it's happening in the moment, partners are never told what to do and how to hold space for that. We don't even know how to hold space for that. This isn't a part of we get, not only do we not really get a sex education, whatever sex education we get is bad sex education. So, and the fact that 1 out of 3 women have had some kind of sexual trauma in their life, that means most men are dating people who have encountered some sort of sexual trauma, and it's never
many who
talked
have
about.
not healed or dealt with,
and how to deal with that sort of thing. So, all right. So there was some
back to this
awareness
moment,
that was in the way.
Okay, yeah. So I had that sort of awareness come to me, but I didn't actually know what to do with it. At that time, I even approached my parents again, and I kind of, boo-hooed and cried at them. How come you didn't get me the right therapy? I don't know what to do. I feel like it's affecting my relationship, my life, my self-love. And so my parents, bless their hearts, good parents, they actually paid for me to have a therapist, like to go to a therapy session that was an LDS. LDS is Latter-day Saints, the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, right? So it's a Mormon therapist. And so I sat down with this Mormon therapist, and it was a very vulnerable moment for me. Hey, I have had this realization. I had this abuse in my childhood. It's affecting me, I think, in this way. And I left that appointment never wanting to make an appointment again with this therapist. Like, I was like, that was so pointless. It was so not helpful at all. And that was all before we had sort of this low, breaking point in 2017 where there was an even bigger kind of moment of infidelity after the birth of our 3rd child. And so at that point, I had sort of these intuitive hits that said, there's things here for you to look at. I didn't have the tools to know how to look at them. And then we went the route in that disclosure of infidelity in 2017, like Britton mentioned, we actually went the route the church says to go to heal these exact things, which looks a little bit like this. You come together, you talk to the bishop, who's the leader of the congregation, like the priest of this area that you go to church in, and you confess to the bishop, this is what I did, blah, blah, blah. Then the severity of the sin can mean that you might need to go before a council of 12 men that are this presidency for the area. And then you confess again to a room of 12 men who then determine what actions you're going to have to refrain from, what your penance is and the duration of that penance, right? So he kind of is.
When looking back on it, it's retarded.
That's terrible. There's not healing. There's no healing in that.
There's no healing. So we sat there, and I remember, I remember sitting in this room, and he's confessing, and all of these men are nodding their heads. And by this point, I had just barely found that trauma-informed yoga group that I was meeting in. There were women, so many women. And I remember sitting there really kind of holding my own judgments of I wonder how many of these men struggle with these exact themes. And they're silent about it, and yet they're going to judge my husband. I was simultaneously bothered and fascinated and judgmental at the same time. Wow. But I also felt like we're going to do it. We're going to do it the right way. He's confessing. He's going to make these changes, and it's going to be better. So they came back and they said, okay, this is your penance. You have to be disfellowshipped for an entire year. And that means no praying publicly. There was a list of things he couldn't do at church for that year. And we went home and we took a Polaroid in the backyard. And
which is on our website.
The website. Go to their website and check that out. Their website, by the way, y'all, it's called, what's it called? The
Magical Story of Us.
The Magical Story of Us. It is so beautiful. Their website's gorgeous. Go check it out.
So there's a picture there. And in that picture, you can see how depressed and his energy is so heavy. And I have this little hope you can kind of feel from me that I'm oh, we're doing this, right? And that catapulted us into a year of his disfellowshipment. And in that year, I witnessed absolutely zero support for myself from the church, from the organization, from the men. I was so alone. I was living with so much shame. I couldn't tell anybody what I was really going through because I was afraid of their judgments. I was afraid of my own judgments. And
That must have been a hard year. So isolating and like just no expression, no support.
doing it the church way actually was really important because I realized, that by the year's end, the trauma was worse in my body.
Right.
Like I was traumatized now, not just by my marriage, but by the way the church held me through it and not any closer to Jesus or to like healing. And that was a big eye opener to me. And I realized through that journey and that difficulty and that isolation that I absolutely needed to heal. And that with or without him, whether or not we made it through everything we were going through, that I had things within me that were generational, that were showing up, that were that blocked me. So I made a commitment to myself at that point in time that I was going to prioritize my healing no matter what. I didn't know what that looked like, whether or not he'd stick around or I'd stick around with him as we did this journey. But when we gathered back together with that same group of men a year later, and they were like so proud. Good job, brother and sister Beckham. That's what Mormons call each other. You know, you've done it. We're here at a year. We're ready to reinstate you to full membership in the church. How do you feel? And they turned and looked at me. And I basically told them off. I said, you've missed the mark. There's no support for women. I don't think you know what you're doing. Like, it was a moment of standing up to the patriarchy that their eyes were so big. They weren't expecting me to tell them how ineffective that year was for me as a woman, that they shouldn't be patting themselves on the back.
I wonder if they received that. Do you have any
do you know if
data
they took
or
any of that to heart?
intel about what came from that moment of you standing up for yourself and for women and for the whole lineage of women in your religious history?
The Mormonism is so contained and from the patriarchal perspective that I think if it was received, there's no way that it would have gotten back to like the headquarters in Salt Lake. Oh, this woman said this, right? But through me telling the story now, it might, like it really might like facilitate that change that I would really love to see in regards to true healing. But in that moment, I could tell that what I was saying was impacting the men listening because of the looks on their faces and the way that they were surprised. But more than anything, more than how it affected the exterior world, it was a moment of my interior world that said, this is you reclaiming you. This is just one piece of that puzzle.
It was a
like stand in your
you.
truth. Yeah, it really was.
Wow,
So
that's
beautiful.
amazing. Well, that's a gorgeous, amazing, uplifting, inspiring moment of truth that you just shared with our whole audience. Thank you for that. And I celebrate that moment for you and with you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
We had Dr. Mike Frazier on the show early when we started the podcast a couple of years ago. And I'm curious what you think of this and if this resonates with what you also observed within the congregation, with friends, with families. And one of the things that he does within the Mormon faith is he's a therapist to Mormon men who are finding themselves in their marriages with very unhappy partners, where there isn't a lot of sex going on, and they can't believe it. These husbands can't believe it because they were promised, you get married, you sacrifice so much, and then the day you get married, and now you get to have all the sex you've ever dreamed of, all the sex you didn't allow yourself to have. Here's your chance. And so they just think that this is their right, but their partners aren't having the sex that they want. And so eventually the spouses are like, I'm not interested in sex with you. I don't like sex with you. I'm not going to have a lot of sex with you. This isn't. And because there's nowhere to go to try to correct that, there becomes this rub. So on the one hand, he goes, a lot of the guys that I work with think it's their right. They've been told their whole life that sex is their right and that sex is for them. Meanwhile, they have no idea how to communicate with their partners, how to bring intimacy and connection to their partners, how to have sex in a way that their partners want to have sex. And so then they just find themselves in sexless marriages. And he's trying to help them listen to their partners in different ways. He's teaching them intimacy skills and how to approach their spouse in a way that feels loving, connecting, intimacy filled, how to have sex differently. And he's got all sorts of testimonials with the wives coming onto the website and saying, wow, I feel like I'm with a totally different man. And our relationship has been healed to a degree. Does that paint an accurate picture from your experience?
Everything I know about Mormonism and the marriages and the relationships, it's totally accurate. It's totally accurate because there's no education. It's all suppression. And then they try to have this relationship that they've had in their mind about what it should look like. And it just never, there's crazy stories in Mormonism because of the sexual repression. So yes, totally.
Well, there's nothing that will close a woman's body more than obligation. If I think my body is obligated to you, it's going to be really hard to get turned on.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of a moment that was really, really crucial in my own healing, right? So we had these ruptures and we were trying to heal and we were doing a lot of things. We dove deeply into seeking healing and calling that in. And so much magic was happening in our life. And there was a lot of reclamation for myself as a woman of magic and embodiment and connected to the divine feminine. And so I was deepening in all of that. And I had this moment of realization, in April of 22 that kind of goes along with what you just said of the mindset of the women in this culture. I identified that I was attached to my dreams of my childhood. My little girl, Carolee, what did she dream of when she grew up? It wasn't what career I would have. It wasn't any of that. It was I'm going to get married and I'm going to have this husband and I'm going to have this family and I'm going to be this wife and this mother and be in this relationship. And I realized that we kept choosing into being together and healing as a partnership. And there was a lot of PTSD and betrayal trauma that I was navigating in my somatic system, right? Mm-hmm. But I realized one of my blocks were all of my dreams from my childhood. Uh-huh. That my dreams were this idea. I was attached to this idea of what marriage and partnership was supposed to be like. And then when I really got real about it, I realized, are there any women in my life, in this community, who I say they've nailed it, the way in which this partnership enlivens them? And no, I couldn't honestly connect to anybody. I was like, no, we all get together and we kind of bitch and moan about our husbands. And so I realized that somewhere back in my childhood, the program that had been implanted about what my husband and my marriage was supposed to be like was a false story, a false narrative that perpetuated the patriarchal imbalance and didn't actually give me my sovereignty, and so made me beholden to service, right? This overarching theme of I'm here to serve him instead of I'm here to receive and serve and give, and this dance. Right. And so I actually sometimes I can be really dramatic, and I took the dress that I wore when we got married in the Mormon temple and I ripped it to shreds.
Ooh, liberating.
All right, how cathartic.
And then he had written a poem for me that said, it was called My Little Number One. And he had gold embossed on black paper and we had framed it with pictures of our wedding day.
Nice.
It was really nice, but it was triggering to me because I didn't want to be a number.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be a number. In the sense of there's other numbers, So I took my dress and I took the poem and I gathered with 3 other women and I held a witchy grief circle under the full moon.
Beautiful.
And for the first time, I had been so scared to tell people what I was really living through so I hadn't admitted to anybody. I was keeping, this was 22. We had been going through infidelity since 2011, off and on, right? So that's a shit ton of time where I'm holding all of it in myself. And I spoke it out to these women. I said what we were going through, and I burned my dress in the fire, and I burned the poem in the fire, and I said, I am saying goodbye. I know it's so dramatic, to all my hopes and dreams.
Yeah, well,
because
I would frame that. I don't think it's
not dramatic.
I think it's an inflection point.
Yeah,
that of change.
I think it's
Like,
empowerment.
this is a symbol of what I'm becoming, what I'm changing. It's like an alchemical example of because we have trauma. Trauma has a gravitational pull to it. It's an inflection point too. It says, here's this thing that was so difficult. It's changed me forever. Trauma all through our life forever. But when you have a ritual, a trauma is something of great power. A ritual is also of great power, but it's something that is so positive, that is so transformative, that it also alters you into the future forevermore.
Exactly.
And the power from a positive ritual can also shake up the trauma from the past. It's like an earthquake, and it shakes up the residue of that trauma to start to destabilize the trauma of the past. So I think having rituals of great power that include something like the full moon and a fire ceremony and cutting something up and using a destructive element for change is kind of so symbolic to all the things you're talking about that are beautiful. So I would say, maybe drama, but really power.
Yeah, it really actually, it felt so that, because it was like, I have to let go of these hopes and dreams because they were founded on untrue principles. And I was willing to open myself up to allowing myself to be guided into what a new partnership that would really serve me could look like. But I had to let go of the past. I had to let go of all of the beliefs. I had to surrender them.
You had to purify something, in order to embody a new...
you have to clear out those old limiting beliefs and those old indoctrinations and patterns. I'm curious, Britton, how that was for you. Like, did you, when she came back from that full moon witchy ritual, like what was alive and what was inspired within you? I mean, she burned your poem that she gave you with the wedding pictures. I mean, that's a huge reclamation for her.
What was that emotional process for you?
The poem hurt a little bit, but it was actually I was actually in Denver at the time, and I was at a Joe Dispenza retreat, and I'm doing the work, right? Like I'm in deep reclaiming a new life and letting go of the past and doing what she's doing too. And but what's interesting is, 2 months before, in February, after we had another beautiful initiatory mushroom experience, and the day after that, trauma reset again. It was like, when you go up, when you do mushrooms, or when you do medicine in spiritual context and ceremony, where you actually have strong intention and you have a purpose behind it, there is so much more power that can come to you. So we did another one in February of 22, and the next day, I'm talking to this friend, and Carolee and I are laying in bed, and she's texting me, and I'm texting her back, and she sends me a text, and it says something about sex, and it was like what she's navigating in her life, right? It wasn't like there was a sexual anything going on between us, but she saw it, and she was like, maybe get triggered, right? And it was like, that was like the drop from the beautiful mushroom ceremony, not even 24 hours before, back into her trauma. And so, so from February until May of that year, 2022, it was deep work. But what I did was I was like, I basically said goodbye to our marriage as well, not in a divorce way. We weren't even near that. We were excited about the potential of the future in a huge way. I took our marriage certificate and I burned it.
Wow.
And
goodbye
and
to
so
that
I had
marriage. That
Yeah.
form
goodbye
of
to that
you
marriage, goodbye
stepped
to the order
into.
under the church, goodbye to the
God bless.
patriarchy. All of that was like poof. And I posted it on my Instagram. I'm sure people were like, WTF, like what's going on?
Wow.
But it was super powerful. And I felt so good about it because I was like, oh, now we get to build it on our terms. And the truth is after Carolee did her clearing, then we could, because we had both said goodbye to the past. And by May, we had planned and executed on a blood moon a new union ceremony, and we
Nice.
remarried ourselves in our room.
Nice.
That's
so
really
beautiful.
That's such a
Love
beautiful,
that.
uplifting, hope-filled. Because I think, when you get married and you go through the whole process, and then you add kids to the equation, and now all your finances are merged, there's so much trauma just from a breakup of like feeling like failures. And I think I don't think we have a lot of good systems available to us in our modern age. For breaking up consciously, right? How to have divorce and remain friends, and not give all of our money to divorce lawyers. And 2, how to actually reinvent who we are now, especially when we meet each other and we're so much younger. And it's like in 10, 15, 20 years, we have rebuilt ourselves. Every 7 years, we have a completely new body. We replace all the cells in our system.
Yes.
So how are we also not changed emotionally, spiritually, energetically? And how can we grow together when we might be growing at different speeds
I'm
and in
impressed.
different seasons? So I'm really, impressed with your
I'm
guys'.
impressed with how quickly you guys started the process, because let's go back to this initiatory mushroom journey was in 2019, right?
Yeah.
You guys were going through all of this massive transformation. That was not very long ago during COVID, right? While the entire earth is going
Where we
through
got pregnant
massive
1 month before the
transformation.
COVID craze.
Right, and then you're pregnant again. So now are you worried about
so
all
many layers, you guys.
how was this pregnancy compared to the last 3? Now that you've done a little bit of work, is it still, I'm sure it still is difficult with your body.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, God.
So what's interesting is, like the church had shown us this path of healing, which wasn't really any healing at all. It was a path of what they wanted to see as behavioral adaptation. They wanted to see how would we stop ourselves from doing a thing. That's really it. And you just have to like pray more and go to church more and blah, 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 blah. And it's not useful. But all of it was basically spiritual bypassing. It doesn't really get to the core of it. You don't confront your energy. You don't confront the reasons why you're doing whatever you're doing.
Right.
And I knew that the 4th pregnancy, this is why I said that unless God came down himself and told me to have another child, I would not, because I knew it would end us.
Really?
And it did. It did end us, because what happened in that 4th pregnancy was I got into another emotional connection with someone. And this was the final catalyst. This was the great thing needed to finally say to myself, okay, I'm here again. Why am I fucking here again? And I had to really get inward in a way that I hadn't yet about this particular problem, because we had started our healing journey. We'd started our emotional stuff and emotional reintelligence. She was doing a certification and bringing it home and teaching me. And it was really powerful. So we were getting the tools, but now we needed the actual catalyst to reignite all of it one more time so that we could transcend it. And this is where we really believe in the commitment to, this isn't just about healing. This is about awakening. Okay. Because what we realized was this pathway was the pathway that we had chosen to awaken. This catalyst of the church and the suppression of sexual energy and the sexual abuse we both experienced in our childhood, and the infidelity pattern, all of those things created this scenario where we were in 2020, basically. And so it was like this moment, I had been given this beautiful Kundalini awakening. I had seen things and felt things that were beyond anything that I could comprehend. And then I'm back in it again. And I'm like, what the fuck? So it was like a really big moment for me to step into my healing in a real conscious way. And through that, this is where the reason why we went through so much in 2021 and then 2022 was like, I mean, just in 4 months, we changed our whole life over. But it was because we needed to finally actually heal this, not just bypass it. So it was another low point for sure. You know, it was really hard. And in 2021, we got to this point where we're both in our healing. We're both trying to heal. We got a little Eva. She's like 1 year old, not even one. And we're like, can we actually heal together?
Yeah.
Am I just triggering you too much?
It's
I
hard
know that
to
you need to heal.
together.
She knows.
Yeah.
And so, you know, with the kids and the 9 to 5, and we're basically trying to get our healing in from like 9 p.m. to midnight every night. It was really difficult. So we did that for all of 2021.
Wow,
And then,
you guys. So
yeah,
inspiring.
So where does
But
traveling the
devotional.
world come in at this point? Are you
Where
guys
does the
traveling
what?
the world
Oh,
at this point?
okay.
well, so I just wanted to say MDMA
Yeah.
came in here, and this is where MDMA shifted things for us in a big way.
Uh-huh.
So we were able to do an MDMA ceremony in August of that year, and that was like where we reconnected. We were actually going to talk about how do we separate, how do we consciously uncouple maybe.
Yeah.
And actually what happened was we just started making love for 3 hours, and it was like this beautiful, deep, reconnective moment in our relationship where we were like recharged and re-energized around how we could heal, and that there is still potential here.
God, MDMA will
Amazing.
do that for
Saves the day.
hearts, minds, bodies, souls. It just kind of
Yeah.
opens all those connected
Yeah.
sensory
So beautiful.
experiences, and kind of you get to go to some really divine places on that medicine when our bodies are connected.
So where are you guys at now on your journey, and where are you heading? Tell us current.
Wait. Before we get to there, and I know we're running out of time, but I want to know about this traveling the world thing with 4 kids. And,
Go back.
you know, I don't want to miss that part. Then you get the big retreat center in Colorado afterwards. So it's like epic chapters.
Yeah. So I want to add just real quick, you know, right after that first mushroom journey, the very next week, we had some big gifts come from the universe to support us in this new path that we were forging. We went to a sound healing for the first time, and he felt really called to that modality. In fact, within a few months, he sold all of his guns and used the money to actually buy crystal bowls.
Wow.
So there was like this massive shift from this very masculine into this feminine within himself that was like receiving in my heart and emotions, which was so cool for me to see. What came to me was, you know, I had in that medicine journey, this ties into the children. My first medicine journey was all about, I like literally watched my life like it was a movie, and what points in my life I was witnessing were all of the moments of my children's births. I had all our kids at home naturally, and I went back and I was able to reintegrate and see, and I made all these connections about my energy and their energy and things that now I know to be true because people talk about it. But in my world at that time, it was so fundamentally different than how I'd been raised to view this connected energy. And that propelled me into all of 2020. I was part of a school of emotional healing. It's called the Institute of Healing Arts. It's in Linden, Utah. And in that 2020, while also pregnant, I actually was able to heal through this integrative processing technique, those pieces of myself that disassociated from my childhood during the abuse. So full circle back to like healing the trauma from my childhood and healing trauma. Like we had really effective healing modalities that came and supported that reintegration. So we had this like foundation of this full new way to see emotional health and emotional intelligence with his sound healing, and that supported us. The repeat pattern of infidelity after our 4th child almost broke me. Like it was so significant. The woman that was involved had been somebody who I had let into my home and my heart. And I had actually confided in her the truth of our story, not knowing she was also participating in it in that way. And so like that wounds of betrayal struck me in a way that almost shattered me. But he held strong through that. I held strong through that. And we continued to do the work to heal that. And that propelled us into 2021 was kind of a blur. beginning of 2022, he went to a men's retreat and came home saying, we need to do this thing that I've learned called the full fuck yes, like living this full fuck yes. What does that look like for us? And so we made these lists of things we wanted to accomplish that year that we hadn't been giving ourselves permission our entire lives together and apart. We just started saying yes to our hearts, yes to these opportunities, yes. And that led us to the point where in June of 22, we attended a week-long retreat, also here in Colorado. Colorado's had an important part of our story, that brought a sexual re-education.
ISTA.
So yeah, we did.
Heard of
ISTA,
ISTA.
right.
Yeah, so we did.
School of International Temple Arts.
Yeah. So we attended that, and that was revolutionary for ourselves, that re-education.
Who were your teachers at that one? Who were the facilitators?
Triambaka. Yeah. We know her.
Triambaka and
Dear
Juan
Heart sisters.
Nice.
and Stacy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Triambaka, Juan, and Stacy were the ones who facilitated. And that was amazing. Like, we left that, and they say after ISTA, don't do anything big. Just like let this energy settle.
Don't make any big decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we took the advice, obviously.
We went home and put our house on the market.
Nice. You're like, we're out of here. We got to go somewhere
Yeah,
where we can be surrounded and supported.
Yeah. So we sold our house. We sold basically every piece of furniture that we owned inside the house. Like, we let it all go.
That must
And
have felt good.
by October of 2022, we were living in Bali with our 4 kids.
Wow.
So caution, if you end up saying, I'm going to live the full fuck yes, your life's going to go wild really quickly.
Like, my husband would love to do that. Let's sell a house and everything in it. And I'm like,
it was actually so good. So yeah, we lived in Bali for 5 months, and then that evolved into a deeply spiritually guided soul level pilgrimage / world schooling adventure with our kids, which took us to Vietnam and then France, England, Ireland, Scotland, and Egypt.
Wow.
And there are so many stories to say about the magic, literal magic that happened in all of these places as we stood on sacred land and had remembrance after remembrance come forth about who we are and like the love that we have as individuals and as a partnership. And ultimately, through more magic, we were guided here to Colorado, where we're now in this beautiful home on 46 acres.
Wow.
it's a retreat center, right?
We're turning it into that. That's what our intention is.
Where are you at with that process?
So right now we're in the process because I was out of work for 3 years. Failed to mention I left my career in the end of 21.
Mm-hmm.
So that was another soul step. But we'd been out of work for 3 years. So there's no consistent income. So we're basically acquiring this property, and we have a site map and a plan, and we're going to turn this into a really awesome community facilitating space for healing and for couples work and for embodiment and astrology and magic. So it's going to be this really, we're calling it Anahaunted Mystery School.
When it's all set up, we'll come run some retreats there with you guys.
Yes.
Oh, great. That'd be awesome.
So are you guys working with individuals and couples?
Yeah, that is our intention. So we have coaching set up. So we'd love to offer this wisdom, this embodied path that we've walked to others. And we've built this program called Reframing Infidelity. You can check it out at reframinginfidelity.love. And this is a really beautiful program that we guide other couples through recapturing their power, getting out of victim mentality, finding forgiveness, reestablishing trust and truth in the relationship, all of those necessary things, and then moving into deeper connection within the union.
Is this just for couples, or can people who have decided to step away from the couple and are still healing from infidelity utilize this as well?
It's for singles and couples.
Okay.
So yeah, we both know and made a commitment in our own journey that with or without each other, whether or not we stayed as a partnership, that we needed our self-healing. And so the program that we've created specifically for infidelity actually is that. It's like, this is first and foremost for the individual. These are the actual very effective tools that we discovered as we gave everything to healing this, that actually what helped move the energy, clear the energy, and start new. And so if there are couples that have been through this same story and they're really struggling to like put the pieces back together and create the union that they've always wanted, it's ideal for that scenario when two people can come to it together, but also like it's fundamental principles for anybody. So yeah, it goes for both.
Beautiful.
Well, I have to say in closing, two things. One is you got a lot of great content for your podcast, which is launching. So what's the podcast?
Well, it's all
called?
branded under The Magical Story of Us. So we have our podcast, which is called
Right.
The Magical Story of Us. You can find it on Spotify already. We soft launched it, but it's coming out. We're going to be talking about it real soon. And we've actually been recording the Magical Journey overview. So that's kind of what's on there right now. We're authoring 2 books, one of my story, my version, my healing journey, and then hers and how they intertwine and weave. And that's called The Magical Story of Us. You can just follow us from themagicalstoryofus.com and join into our mailing list and follow our socials. This is where we're going to be offering all of our services from. So yeah, very excited.
Yeah. And so I just want to say, you guys have been a really beautiful example for our show and community of reimagining sex and intimacy and relationships. So congratulations. We look forward to watching your journey unfold as
That's
the
right.
future chapters are written.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You too. Thanks,
Yeah.
Leah and Dr. Willow.
Pleasure to have you both.
All right, y'all. Well, the show's not over. Please stay tuned for The Dish with myself and Dr. Willow.
Now, our favorite part, the dish.
What a fun interview. I love hearing people's stories, and their story really is magical. I mean, there are so many inflection points along their journey, and I'm so impressed that they've done the healing that they've done together. It is an extra added element to do this deep level of healing work while in partnership, especially in a partnership that you've been betrayed by over
Oh my
and over
God,
again.
we've got religious trauma. We've got sexual trauma. We've
Betrayal
got infidelity trauma.
So
We've got,
many.
holy smokes, it is like so set up to fail. And yet
Carolee
we've been
is my new
victorious.
shero.
Yeah.
She has been doing some good deep work on herself. And I love how Britton just like continues to rise up within himself so that he can be, the partner that he probably has always wanted to be, and uncondition that old conditioning pattern stuff so that he can find his true self and his new way forward. And I also have to say that I really love that plant medicine and MDMA have been a part of their awakening, because it is one of those things that can really change the trajectory of your life in a great way.
Totally. We'll have him back on the show. One of the things we spoke about backstage after the interview was we didn't have time. There were so many elements to their story. We didn't have time to talk about what their sexual life is like now and how much that is transformed. I mean, they hinted at it with talking about some of the medicine journeys that they were on, but it sounds like Carolee's had a real full sexual awakening within her own body. Access, I imagine, to more pleasure will be fun to really hear about what that looked like. Just spending time on the erotic portion of their story, I feel like there's a whole lot more to pour into. And my experience is that plant medicine does really open up one's system, one's body, really can contribute powerfully to the sexual awakening that can happen in someone's system, and brings the sacred spiritual element to what that sexual capacity is. I think in particular to the feminine, it has a dramatic shift that gives us access to things that are truly unbelievable and really feel miraculous.
Absolutely. I feel like, I've been doing it, these medicines since I was probably like 13 or 14 years old. So such a long time that I forget how miraculous they can be when you start them later in life. So it's really fun for me to be working now with baby boomers and people, in different age ranges. And I mean, I think these guys are younger than us, but still them coming to it at a later time in their life. It's like so cool to witness the power and the magnificent transformation that is possible when doing that work. And when you couple it with sacred sexual work, not maybe at the same time if you're facilitating, but as
Depends
a
on the medicine.
partnership. Yeah, as a partnership, I think it's just so powerful. It's so game-changing.
Yeah, I'm really happy for them, proud of them, celebrate with them. It's really uplifting to watch love conquer so many obstacles, so many reasons to break up, to turn away from each other. They had so many things up against them. It's amazing.
Their
all of
story
that.
is magical for
I
sure.
mean, many of us will do some of that with 3 or 4 relationships,
Right,
you know, and just
right.
anchoring some of that healing, you know, in different chapters with different people. It's remarkable that they were able to do that with each other. It'll be really fun to see what they create.
And beautiful where they're heading. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excited to see what they do in Colorado.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, everybody have a beautiful night, day, or morning. We love you.
Much love.
Thanks for tuning in. This episode was hosted by Tantric Sex Master Coach and Positive Psychology Facilitator Leah Piper, as well as by Chinese and Functional Medicine Doctor and Taoist Sexology Teacher Dr. Willow Brown. Don't forget, your comments, likes, subscribes, and suggestions matter. Let's realize this new world together.
Hey guys, what would it be like if you could last 10 times longer when you're having sex?
We are going to teach you how to gain massive confidence as a lover, all without performance anxiety, gimmicks, or prescription.
This course is perfect for you if you've ever been mortified by a sexual encounter that ended way too early.
Or if you've ever avoided intimacy out of fear that you won't last as long as your lover desires. Or maybe you long to give your partner multiple orgasms but can't last long enough to make that a reality.
Well, good news, we've got your back, and it's in our course, Last 10 Times Longer. Go to sexreimagine.com/last-10x-longer.
And for all of our favorite listeners out there, we are giving you a discount, 20% off, y'all. Just put in podcast 20, all caps, podcast 20, to get your 20% off of this phenomenal course that you're going to want to review more than once.
We cannot wait to see you inside this course. Plus, don't forget, we always got tons of bonuses. See you there.